Hey, y'all, I'm Shane Sams. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast today. Super excited to sit down with another amazing influencer, expert, author, another incredible entrepreneur so that you can learn all of the lessons that they have learned over the years and apply them to your entrepreneur journey. I am really pumped up about my guest today. Her name is Nikki Rausch, and she is the founder of YourSalesMaven.com. I have known Nikki for many, many years. She is an incredibly impressive entrepreneur, and she is my go-to source for all things conversation and sales. If you want to make more sales, y'all, I don't care what you're doing, you better pay attention to this podcast today. I don't care if you're selling on email. I don't care if you're selling on webinars. I don't care if you're selling face-to-face. Nikki is an expert in helping salespeople close more deals, and she specializes in helping women make more money. On today's podcast, we're going to talk about NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. I got that right. I've been practicing saying that for 10 minutes. But we're going to talk about the power of NLP and how it can make you better at conversation, better at finding out what your customers actually need, and better at closing those deals. Nikki is also going to talk through her 5-step process. It's called the selling staircase. And you're going to learn how you can move people all the way from discovery to purchasing your products and services. Man, this was a fun conversation. I learned so much in my time with Nikki. And I know you're going to learn some amazing tips and tactics today that are going to help you take your customers from conversation to close. So wherever you're tuning in today, pour yourself a cup of coffee or a jar of sweet tea. Grab a notebook and a pen to take some notes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Three, two, one. Hi, Nikki Rausch.
Hey, Shane Sams.
How are you? I'm excited about this conversation. We have a big block of time for us just to hang out today, and that makes me really happy.
I feel the same. I feel like this is something extra special for me this week. So this is a great way to kind of bring my week to a close. Is get to hang out with you for a couple hours.
Nikki and I get to hang out in a mastermind setting every Monday, and we get to talk about business. And now we're going to bring all the business talk to everybody out there. I got a question for you. How did you come up with the name Your Sales Maven? Like, where did that come from? Because I've always thought that was a cool name for a business. But like, where did you come up with Sales Maven? Like, what is that all about?
Well, Sales Maven is actually the name of the company. And then when I was trying to get the URL, I couldn't get Sales Maven. So it became YourSalesMaven.com. But Maven in particular, when I was trying to decide on what I was going to name my business, I knew I wanted to have sales in the name of the business, because that's what I teach is selling and sales skills.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, you cannot have sales in the name of your business. Nobody will hire you. Like, I got told that like 5 times when I was trying to come up with my name. So then I was really committed to having sales in the name and like to prove everybody
So this
wrong.
was totally just a stick it in your face kind of thing is what's going on here, right?
Yeah, because people are like, oh, everybody hates sales. And I'm like, I'm going to show people how to do it and do it well. And it's not going to be, icky and all that stuff. And then Maven, because when I was trying to think of like, well, what am I? I'm a sales expert. I have an extensive background in selling, but I didn't want to call myself sales expert. So I was like, what's another name for expert? So of course I got on, the thesaurus, and Maven came up, and I was like, oh, I like that word Maven. Of course, I also get told all the time that it sounds like an old lady name.
What, like, does Maven mean expert? I thought Maven had something to do with women.
No, it actually doesn't have to do with women, but I feel like women use it more often.
An expert or connoisseur.
That's right.
That's what it means. I just looked it up on my handy dandy Google search here.
And that's me. Like, I love sales and I'm an expert at it.
That is amazing. It is true though. That word does seem like a female word. I don't know if that's,
it does.
Are we allowed to say things like that now? I don't even know if that's possible. Am I allowed to make that distinction? But it does. It sounds like to me like a female expert. That's what I thought it would kind of had the ring to it. You know what I'm saying? So how did you get into sales in the first place? And here's another thing too. Jocelyn and I are about to go on the road, leading some sales teams that we're building. And it's fascinating because, when you get into this world, Jocelyn and I just had a big partner meeting, and there was a bunch of salespeople in there. They were just all men, and she was like, dang, it's still a men's club. Because when Jocelyn was in corporate in marketing and sales back in the early 2005,
Mhm.
6, 7, and it was a boys club just everywhere. So
Yeah.
it is kind of interesting seeing, and women dominated sales is another thing. I don't know why more women don't go into sales, because they do really, really well when they get into it. So how did you get into sales and like just knock down this door and say, I'm here, I'm the sales maven? Like, how did you do that?
Well, how I got into it from a professional standpoint was actually through a college project. I had a college project. I had to go out and we had to interview a company, and the company we ended up interviewing and then come back and do like our whole grade, like 90% of our grade was based on this like getting into this company and coming back and giving this huge presentation. And I had a partner, and my partner had picked this local company, and they were a tech company in this little town that I was living in called Paulsbo, Washington.
What year was this?
That was in, oh gosh, what year was that? It must have been in like 95 or 96.
Oh, so this is like tech boom bubble, .com era kind of stuff. The tech companies, yeah.
The products that they were selling, like they sold the third LCD panel that was ever made. Now you're a former teacher. Did you ever use those LCD panels that sat on top of your overhead projector?
Oh yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah.
So the company I went to work for, we sold the third one ever made.
Oh wow, that's kind of cool actually. You need to be like, I got my started in the .com bust and bubble. You need to like pretty that story up, make it like, yeah, did you know I was a .comer, right? Like, because everybody knows about that.
Well, I think we were actually a little before the .com, really. Like we really were that
That's
that
even better.
early.
Like I'm so you're OG.com.
I am so OG when it comes to this. So that's really how I got into it, and then had a lot of success there, and worked my way up. Worked for a manufacturer, one of the largest manufacturers in the world, actually, and did really well. But like you said, I was very much the sole female. I think the last 10 years of my career as a sales professional, I had one woman on the sales team with me for less than a year. Otherwise, I was always the only female in a very male dominated industry, which is tech.
It's so crazy like that you say that, because Jocelyn, she sold my wife, Jocelyn. I always forget like that everyone just default knows who Jocelyn is. I'm just talking about
I feel like everybody knows who she is.
I think everybody should know who she is at this point.
Yeah,
like my wife, amazing. Jocelyn, she was in sales for commercial dishwashers. So she sold dishwashers to like Applebee's and stuff, right? Like that's riveting and exciting. But what's crazy is, and there was only very few women in that space. So anytime a promotion came up, it was always like the same 3 women applying for it. So you like had this really weird, like you were so boxed in competitively, even in the space, because when there's so few women, like, and they're looking for maybe a woman for a role, or they're trying to get more women to, go up in the management, ladder. It's almost like more competitive because there's so few of you, and you just know each other, and you're always sitting in the same waiting room back then, right? Like waiting to compete. Yeah. I'm sure it's still that way now too in most industries,
I mean, I hope it's getting better. I actually left one of the companies I was working for because I sat down with a VP of our company, and I was like, I'm ready for more. I would like to be promoted. I would like a new challenge. And he was like, I got to tell you, you'll never be promoted to management. And I was like, what?
Are you serious?
Yeah. I was like, why? Like, I'm your top producer. I'm totally committed to the company. As a matter of fact, people associated me with the company. So when you would bring up the company name, they'd be like, oh, Nikki Rausch.
Oh, Nikki's company. She owns the joint.
Yeah. I wish. And he goes, you're a female. And I was like, okay, good to know.
Now,
and
I left
was
that like a straight shooting kind of conversation?
He was a very straight shooter. Like I will say.
But did you appreciate that he told you the truth? Yes.
Yes. I felt very grateful versus feeling like I was going to stay in an organization and just bang my head on the wall and go like, why can't I, move up? So I felt like he was giving it to me really straight. That's just how he was.
Wow.
And thank goodness he did, because it prompted me to move on to other companies, which then prompted me. I went to a company, didn't have quite the experience you had, but I know that you had some bad bosses. And that really was where I was like, okay, I think I got to do something else.
Yeah.
Like there has to be something else out there for me that's more fulfilling than this. And really, Sales Maven was born out of me feeling like there's got to be something else. And what else can I do that would make a
ceiling
difference?
or a cap on me over here.
Mhm.
And I'm just, if there's a cap on that jar, I'm just going to make my own jar. That's basically what you said.
Yeah. Go find your own jar.
I don't understand the mentality of that either, because like, I'm sure that everybody who listens to me is like, thinks I'm some stereotypical jock redneck from Kentucky or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's so funny because like, man, like my whole team is women. I mean, they're just amazing.
Yeah.
And I just find that women are more like dedicated. I think they're better at a lot of jobs, and like, they just kick butt so much. And I think that's why there's such a rise right now in female entrepreneurship, because women are just sick of dudes or systems holding them back. And they're just like, well, forget you. I'll just go out on my own. I'll start my own company and put you out of business. Right. Like I see that so much. 70 something % of our membership and these are all online entrepreneurs is actually female. It's mind blowing how that skews,
Well, I think over 90% of my membership is female. Now I specifically market to females, and I started teaching sales skills because I was networking with women that were struggling to make money. And, I always say, like, if you struggle to make money in your business, you have a hobby. Yeah. And one of the missing pieces often is they don't understand the sales conversation. And I'd had such a background in it. And then plus I also I have a pretty extensive background in Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which is the study of communication. If a listener
NLP.
Like, what's that? Yeah. So NLP. And
who runs that? Are you certified in that?
So there's no mass certification of it. There's lots of different entities that you get, but I am master certified from the program that I went through, and I have over 1,200 classroom hours, which, just to give some comparison, most people with the same certification that I have is like less than 200 hours studying of NLP. So anyway, bringing those together, I was like, I'm going to teach some of these women that I was meeting how to sell. And really, it was one of the women that was like, why aren't you teaching people how to do this? And I even said to her at the time, like, who would possibly pay me to learn how to sell? That seems dumb.
That's what we all say, though.
Yeah.
Trust me. I looked in the mirror before the recording of our first podcast, and I thought, who's going to listen to you, son? This is ridiculous. What are you doing? This is ridiculous, right? And you never know, man. Somebody is going to listen to you if you just try to. Well,
I listen to you, right? Like I listen to you guys. When I was introduced to you and Jocelyn, I listened to you for I think over a year before I finally had the opportunity to meet Jocelyn in person. And then that was it. I was so in.
It's awesome. That's amazing. So tell me more about NLP. I've always been fascinated by this. I've never really went down. So let's see how long we've been doing this. We've been doing this about 10 years. And I've always kind of on the fringe of reading an article or two about NLP, right? And I'm a copywriting collector. Like over here on this, 80% of those books are about copywriting behind me, right? It's just like, I love words. Yes. And I love text and I love communication. And I talk a lot because I podcast, but like, I don't understand exactly like what is NLP and like what is that?
So it stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So neuro is the way we process information in our brains. Okay. Linguistics is the language piece. And then programming is about habits and patterns. And when you start to study NLP, there's a lot of roads that you can go down with it. Like a lot of therapists and counselors use it. Doctors go through NLP training to help with patient compliance. Now, I went through it because I thought it would make me a better communicator. And it would make me better at sales. And it did. But the other back end advantage to it is that it really improved a lot of relationships in my life because I became a better listener. I became a better communicator. And I also, one of my all-time favorite quotes, which I learned while studying NLP is, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape."
That's a great quote. I need to hang that on Jocelyn's wall.
There you go. Get her a t-shirt. Yes. And then, so I think about NLP is that it teaches you some flexibility. It teaches you that it's not about the do this, and then and then you'll get here. It's like, be flexible with the person you're in conversation with. Be willing to adjust your style a little bit to put them at ease, because when you can put somebody at ease in a sales situation, they'll be much more revealing about how to earn their business. They'll listen to you longer. And frankly, they'll be more open to hearing your message when you can put things in terms that is easy for them to comprehend and understand. So that was always one of the biggest like compliments I used to get when I would go out with the reps that I was supporting in the field in sales, is they would say, gosh, Nikki, you never give the same presentation twice. And that's because I tailor my presentation to who I'm in conversation with. What are they most interested in? Because I don't need to tell you feeds and speeds of every single thing that I can do. Let's see what's important to you. And then I'm going to tailor my answers to that.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's weird because like NLP, the way you explain it, it sounds like I'm going to understand this person. I'm going to help them resolve their problems. I'm going to figure out what they need and they want. But then some people almost like wield it like a weapon. It sounds like, like they like, I am an NLP ninja and I will manipulate you forever. You know what I mean? Like that's what NLP feels like sometimes. And I think it kind of turns people off from it a little bit. Don't you think that? I mean,
well, totally. I mean, there's, it's like anything, the yin and the yang. You can use it for good. You can use it for bad. And I do teach, there's some of the techniques that I teach when I'm actually like teaching a course on something that I bring in an NLP technique. I'll say, now, please use this with a high level of integrity. Yeah. Just to give you an example, years ago, there was a book that was written and it was called How to Use NLP to Pick Up Chicks. And it was from like, right.
See,
so
like, that's definitely the dark side version of the yin yang on that one.
Yes. Right. So, and I think there was even a show on NLP or like on MTV years ago. And it was this guy who was teaching other guys how to like pick up ladies at the bar. And he was using a lot of NLP techniques, matching and mirroring, backtracking, all of these NLP techniques. So now here's the thing is, if you use it with a sense of integrity and you use it with, I'm not trying to manipulate somebody, I'm trying to make it easy for them to be in conversation with me. And so that's how I teach it in sales, is that make it easy for people to be in conversation. If you try to be manipulative, I mean, the thing about us in society today is we're pretty savvy. Like we get some of these techniques and these tricks that people are trying to use. And we go like, that feels gross. And when you're using NLP effectively, it should never feel gross. It should feel really good. And it's not about, I always say, sales, it's not your job to convince people to buy from you. Yeah. It really is your job to understand what's the need and then deliver back your proposal, deliver back the way that they can work with you, take that next step in a way that they're open to hearing it.
Yeah. It's very dangerous. Like I think that sales, it's a really interesting place to be when you're selling things, because the longer you're in it, I mean, it's the 10,000 hour rule. When you get good at it, like the NLP stuff, and you realize how much power you wield. Like like I am a very persuasive person, and I've been in a lot of conversations, and you do have to check yourself sometimes, because there's places where you're like, yeah, I can get this person to probably do whatever I want, and it's like, but is that the best thing for them? You have to have some kind of boundaries or rules drawn around you where you're like, does this person need to buy this $5,000 thing? I mean, it's like, because you can talk, people into things. And once they become comfortable with you, Jocelyn and I have this weird effect on people too. And we were talking about this on the way back from our daughter's cheerleading last night. We drive like an hour to get her to cheer practice. It's ridiculous. But we were like, this guy we met, me and Jocelyn were just like, hey, you know how we are. And he just like started telling us his whole life story. And we had just met him like 5 seconds before. And I think it's because we're so at ease with each other that we put other people at ease, because people do this to us all the time. I mean, it's just like immediately, whether it's a random person we meet at a restaurant or someone who's following us on the internet. And like, that's a weird responsibility to hold in a sales position, is can you think about the other person enough to where you get them to where they'll make the decision that you think they should, but then you think, should they make that decision for them? Yeah.
Well, and so really probably if you went through some type of an NLP course, what it would probably do for you is it would give you would go like, oh, I do this naturally, or like, oh, this is very much how I show up. And so it would really kind of just give you some structure around the things that you and Jocelyn already do.
Yeah.
And there is like, I even teach, there's a technique where I teach how to mismatch with people. Like if you get yourself into a situation and somebody's being overly revealing with you, there are some things that you can do to not make the person feel like shamed or weird, but you can do some things that make them want to end the conversation faster.
Really? That's interesting now, because I get in a lot of conversations like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to get out of this one. Who am I talking to here? What's going on here? You know?
Yeah.
What would be one technique like that's like something like that? Like,
well, one of the easiest ones is you change your rate of speech. So if they have a really fast rate of speech, you start talking really slow. Or if they have a slower rate of speech, you talk really, really fast, because it's uncomfortable for them to stay in conversation with somebody who has a really different rate of speech than them.
Interesting.
That's just one way.
That is interesting. And I would also like, if I'm talking to somebody from like New York, I'll just get more Southern where they can't understand my word. Hey, y'all, buddy. You know, I'll just start calling him buddy. Hey, buddy. And we'll say it, and he'd be like, who am I talking to? Why am I talking to this guy?
Now you have to be careful, because you're so charming that they may be like, oh, this guy's so charming, I want to stay in this conversation, right?
I'm darned if I do, and darned if I don't. You know, when you learned NLP, were you like, do you remember a time where you used it and you were like, what just happened? Like, I remember when I first learned about Russell Brunson's stack slide in a PowerPoint, like where he, it's not his, he learned it from somebody else, but he presents it really well. Like how the last thing someone remembers is the last thing you tell them, right? Mm-hmm. That's why the last sentence in a speech is almost more important than the first, right? Doesn't matter what you said before that, they're going to remember your final point, you know? And like at the end, though, you've got to show people the value of what you're doing by adding it together and showing them the total package. Because if you just show them what's inside once, they'll just remember the last thing you told them, the bonus or whatever, you know? Mm-hmm. But I remember the first time I did that in a webinar, it made $16,000. And I was like, oh my, how is that even possible? Right? Like, do you remember something you did with NLP where you thought that like, this is it, I'm going down, like you went down a 2,000 hour rabbit hole. So like, what caused that, you know?
Yeah. So I remember one where, and this was very early on when I was studying NLP, and I learned that there's this technique of like curling your voice up at the end of your sentences or curling your voice down at the end of your sentences. When you curl up, it sounds like you're asking a question. And when you curl down, it sounds like you're stating fact. And I went and I gave this presentation, and I was one of like 7 presenters. And we were giving demonstrations of our product at the time. And I was working for Hitachi, and there was a woman in the audience that came up, and I remember really focusing on when I was talking about my product, when I was talking about what it's going to do, how it's going to benefit them. I was curling my voice down, which is not my norm, by the way. I tend to be a curler upper in my voice, because that's my like, oh, I want to be nice. I want people to like me. Like that kind of my thing. And
questions feel safer. Like the questioning.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I don't have to do anything. I just have to listen. It's about them. Like, it feels so safe when you ask a question to somebody.
Yeah. And so this woman at the end of my presentation, when we were done, she came up to me. I was the only person that she came up to. And she's like, I just want you to know that you are so credible when you speak. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm in. It.
Yeah.
I got it.
Credible is a good word you want on your back.
Yes.
Right? When you're in front of a bunch of strangers, you want to be credible as fast as possible. So how do you, like, when you go into sales, and we're talking, there's a lot of overlap here, though. You're talking people who are on the phone, people who are one-on-one in a chair. This is the kind of sales we're talking about. But I find it's not that different from a webinar, from a stage, from an email, from a whatever. I mean, it's the same kind of thing.
I mean, if you're talking to a person, that's what I teach is if you are having a conversation, whether it's email, on the stage, whatever, you're still talking to people.
Yeah. You have to have that. You have to understand how they're processing what you're saying, basically.
Yeah.
So like, do you teach like I know that sales feels like, from the outside looking in, like there's always systems and scripts and and all those things. Do you find that there's value in that, or that it can be taught to almost anybody, or they can at least improve it? Or is it a natural thing that people just pick up? Do you go through like a system for sales? And then,
Yes.
yeah. What does that look like? The system for
So
selling something?
So I teach the 5 steps of the sales conversation. I call it the selling staircase. So that was my latest book, is the selling staircase. And it's this 5-step process to the conversation. The steps are, the first step is the introduction step. This is where it's your job to make a powerful first impression. Once you do that, it's easy to move to step 2, which is learn how to create curiosity. Because if you can create curiosity, people want to know more. This, by the way, is the most missed step in the selling process, is step 2. And then once you create some curiosity, what happens is they start to give you buying signals, and buying signals leads to that next step, which is step 3, which is the discovery. Some people call it a consultation call, but that's where we're getting to have a conversation and find out what's the need, what's the want, what's the desire. And then once we understand that and we ask the right questions in the discovery, we move to step 4, which is proposal. And when I say proposal, I don't mean necessarily a formal written like scope of work proposal. It might just be like, here's what I'd recommend for you. Like, here's the next step.
Yeah.
And then step 5 is the close. This is the second most missed step. Most people get to step 4 and they think they're done. You're not done. If you didn't issue that close language, you didn't give the person the opportunity to make a decision, yes or no, to hire you. So I teach a lot around those 5 steps, the selling staircase, and I focus a lot on the creating curiosity and making sure you're closed. And if once you close, there's a few things that'll happen. Like when you issue a close statement to somebody or a closed question, they'll say yes, they'll say no, they'll ask a question, they'll say they need to, or they'll have an objection, which is what you want. You want to know if there's an objection. You can never overcome an objection.
That's an interesting statement. You want the that's a fascinating statement you just said there. Like, you want the objection, like, because everybody's like, oh, they rejected me. But it's not a rejection. It's an objection. It's just an obstacle in their path that you get to remove. Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you don't let them get to that point where they can voice their objection to you, you can't overcome it. Like, you can pretend like you think you know what it is, but it might be something that you wouldn't even know. And until you know what it is, you can't overcome it. Right. So you've got to.
I find that people make excuses too, like salespeople, or like, like they'll be like, their wife wouldn't let them do it. They didn't have enough money. Like, it's almost like, no, you're letting that person use it as an excuse. And then you're absorbing their excuse to excuse yourself from making that sale. And like that, I see that a lot, like with people, like any pushback, they're like, I better go on to the next person. And that's not how I view it. It's almost like a game where you've got to figure out how to make them see that that's not a real thing. They've invented a ghost, basically,
Well, your job as the salesperson is to earn the business. And so if they have a real need and you have a solution that will meet their need, you're doing them a disservice if you don't at least check in about the objection and offer a solution to it. If you miss that step, if you just let the sale go, then whether the person realizes at a conscious level or not, they'll feel unsatisfied with their interaction with you. And you're less likely to earn their business down the road when they really are ready, or where something has changed in their life and they're like, I need some help with this, or I need to get this solution. You're less likely to be the person they come back to because you left them feeling unsatisfied with their interaction. You kind of let them go.
You said something absolutely incredible there that I have never heard anyone say. And I study this and I listen to a lot of people say this. You said solve the objection. I have never heard anyone say that. I always hear people say overcome the objection or remove the objection, but that almost sounds like you're trying to trick them past it. It's like, how can you, but you're like, no, give them not just a solution to the core problem, give them a solution to the actual objection. Like, for example, one of the things that objection when I started my business was money. I mean, we didn't have any money. I was a school teacher in Southeast Kentucky. I got paid on Friday and it ran out on Thursday. That's just, we had no money. But the solution to that was having to sacrifice things that I loved and owned. Like, I had yard sales every Saturday. Someone was like, dude, have a yard sale. And I was like, yeah, good idea. And I just but I had to give up some things that I wanted. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was a solution, right? It wasn't just somebody going, well, just sign up for a credit card. You'll make it back later. Like, that's not a solution. That's overcoming the objection, financing and credit cards. And that's fine. There's a place for that. I'm not saying that's not a good thing. Sometimes that is the solution, but that was a solution that came up with my problem, is it provided money at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love the way you said that, man. That's I'm going to quote that and Instagram it when I get off here. Probably. Yeah. That is a quotable. Can I ask you a question about the very beginning of the process?
Yeah, of course.
So in copywriting, like all the greats, the Gary Halberts, all the greats, Dan Kennedys and stuff, I actually am looking at your process here, and it seems like curiosity comes first in copywriting. Like, we always focus on the subject line, the sales heading, and I don't know if that's just because it's direct response, colder kind of thought processes. I feel like internet marketing is a lot of curiosity because we're so dependent on attention. Is getting curious, but that introduction, can you take me through what that is more, the first step? Because you got it before curiosity, and that's kind of fascinating to me.
Well, let me say that sometimes clients show up, or sometimes people show up and they've already moved through a step, right? So if somebody's already on your email list, they've already been introduced to you. So now when you put an offer in front of them, you absolutely have to create curiosity. You got to pique that interest. Now, if you're, what I mean about introduction and making a powerful first impression is, it's kind of, if somebody's seeing you on social media for the first time, whether it's an ad that piques curiosity, which of course yours do, right? But if they're seeing you for the first time, we want to make sure that you're showing up in a way that sends the message of like, oh, this is who Shane and Jocelyn are. I get a sense that, if they show up and have a conversation with you, they shouldn't get a very different Shane than what they see on social media. So you want to make a powerful first impression that is authentic, that isn't like, oh, I don't think I've ever seen you and Jocelyn posting like, here we are in our mansion and we're, driving these like super, crazy cars.
My Lambo.
Exactly.
I got my Lambo.
Because that's so not you guys, right? So you don't want to give this impression that makes people go like, oh, this doesn't feel congruent. I don't feel like I can trust Shane and Jocelyn because this doesn't seem like, what I'm seeing on social media or what I'm seeing on their website even doesn't feel like them. So that's what I mean about the introduction.
It's hard to put I get. I like Dan Henry is this guy who he's a ClickFunnels guy, and he just came out with a video like a couple weeks ago, and I don't care. I'll talk about it. And he was like dancing on a yacht with a bunch of girls in bikinis behind him, and I was like, Jocelyn, can you imagine if we made a video like that? How stupid that would look. It looks stupid when he's doing it. And I'm talking about Dan being stupid. I was like, he was doing it was a parody. Like he wasn't like trying to actually be that guy. He was clearly parodying that SNL skit of the boat or whatever.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But like, I wouldn't even like our brand. Like, I don't know, like parody doesn't really fit with our brand. Like it doesn't, it's not really who we are. We're not, Jocelyn's real direct and I'm just the way I am. So it's like, that doesn't make sense for us. So I wasn't bashing Dan Henry there. If anybody's there, I know what's going to happen. Everybody's going to text Dan Henry. Shane Sams was bashing you, man. No, but that's not what I was doing. So stop it, you trolls. It's like, don't just get the attention. Like, and I think that's where a lot of people go to first is like, try to get attention. Any attention is good attention. Like, they're wearing the sneakers that are blinking and they're wearing a tie-dye coat, even though that's not what they would actually wear or whatever. So you're saying just be yourself. You may get a little less attention, but it's the right attention, and that will allow you to make it curious later at that point, basically. Yeah,
we gotta draw people in, and I will say a lot of my stuff again, because I'm talking about the conversation. A lot of times when you're out networking or you're at a conference or something like that, like, how are you showing up in those situations, and are you making a powerful first impression? Because if you're the person that, people go like, oh, I think that's Shane Sams, but he obviously is not open to talking to anybody. Like, that again would be out of alignment with you and your brand. Like, I've seen you at like at your own conference, like, you know, you're surrounded by people and you're talking to everybody.
Yeah.
That's very you. So and you go out of your way to make people feel comfortable. You're not the kind of person who's going to sit in the back and have, you know, bodyguards around you and be like, you know, don't come talk to him, because that's just not you. So making sure you're making a powerful first impression that is congruent with who you are and what your brand is, I think is super important.
I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago. The amount of speaking we are doing is about to increase dramatically, and we've never really been on stage speakers, but you know, doors open, so we walk through them. And I've been studying more about speaking because I do think there's a nuance to podcasting. There's a nuance to email. There's a nuance to stage speaking. They're all a little different, you know? So I've been, you know, just going down the rabbit hole. And I heard this guy the other day, and he was talking about, and he was this like legendary speaker all over the world, keynote guy, you know what I'm saying? You know, the guy's got keynote tattooed on his forearm or whatever. Right. And because those people are like, my identity is a keynote speaker. Like, do not call me an undercard speaker. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing a workshop. I'm not doing your breakout session. I'm a keynote speaker. Right. But I was listening to this guy, and he was like, and you know what I do? You know what I do, man? And every speaker should do this. If you ever want to be anything in speaking, you got to do this. As soon as you walk off stage, you get out of there. You don't stick around. You disappear. You show up, you go on stage, you walk off stage, you're gone. I'm out. I'm off to the next places, because successful speakers got somewhere to be. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. That's not even the fun part. The fun part's when everybody walks up to you and you're like, hey, where are you from? And like, you know, like, but I can't imagine, like, but so many people take these best practices and advice, like from people like that. And like, but the thing is, that may work for him, you know, that's authentic to him. Maybe that's what makes him authentic. But gosh, you just gotta be careful when you're picking up tips like that, you know, because you could go down that rabbit hole of, this is the right way to do it, instead of, but is that really who you are? Is that really who you are? Come on, guys, you gotta be real, you know?
You know, I have spoken a lot. I've been on quite a few stages. And when I come off stage, I am waiting for the people who want to talk to me, because I close business and I take credit cards like right there on the spot, and I sign people up, and I get
your tile in your back pocket ready to go.
Better believe it, man.
That's amazing. I never thought about that. That's so smart. Like, you should have your phone and a tile or a stripe thing right there with you.
Because they're ready. That's what they're so excited. They're so ready. You've said something that has, you know, created some curiosity and made them go, this person knows something that I want to know. I'm in. And as a matter of fact, this is how I first got invited to speak on the BizChick stage. Is the very first conference I went to with Natalie. She talks about, and I was just there as an attendee, and she's like, you're the only person that I saw over the 2-day period that was taking credit cards from people.
That's, and I was incredible, like, Nikki. That's like
when people give me buying signals, I let them buy from me. I'm ready.
You're just always ready to whip out the lightsaber and go to war. Like, it's like your stripe is your lightsaber. I'm ready. You're like the Jedi sales knight, just ready to fight at all times and defend the dark side. Because that always happens. Like, people come up and they're like, I am going into the membership. And I'm like, okay, here's the website. Like, that's all you say. But I never even thought to be like, prove it. Get your credit card out right now. And then, can you imagine, like, also, like, you know how speaking is. I bet when people see you do that, it sparks other people to do it too, because they're like, that person just signed up. Like, it's like you're creating a mini micro universe table rush just for your own phone to sign up for your thing right there on the spot. You know?
Yeah, and you can certainly be saying too, like, here, I'll walk you all through it. Pull your phones out right now. Go to fliplifestyle.com. See that button on the top where it says join now? Hit that. Get your credit card out. It's going to ask you for your credit card. Put it in. Do yes, do it right then. They're ready.
I feel like such a rookie right now, Nikki. I feel like such a novice salesperson of my thing. So tell me, let me ask, let's just transition a little bit. That was like a master class on NLP and sales, by the way. If y'all didn't listen, you're crazy. So tell me about your mission. So it's one thing to be a master NLP, you know, practitioner. It's one thing to really love sales. Because I do know, Nikki and I, we got an unfair advantage here. We've probably talked a million times, and we've been hanging out together for years. And like, I do know you love sales. Like, that's like, that's your jam, right? But like, what's your mission with your sales Maven? Like, do you have a mission statement? Do you like feel like there's something more important beyond just the techniques and tactics you teach?
Yes. My mission is to give people the confidence to bring revenue into their business so that they can impact the lives of their family and their community. That
Oh,
really is my mission.
yeah.
Because I know that when women make money in their business, it goes to their family and it also goes to their community. They become the leaders in their community and they make a massive impact in their community when they can do that, when they feel that freedom and that confidence that there's money coming in to their business. So
Yeah.
for me, it's about the family and the community.
What an amazing mission too, because I know we all get caught up in that word impact is very interesting. I'm having to weave that into a onstage presentation right now. And the context that it's used in. So we have partners at this live event, and like we're responsible for like income. Like we teach people how to make online income. Our other partners, they're influencers. Like they're very big influencers. They're branding. They're really good at it, And the concept is that together we can help you make an impact, right? Ours is faith-based, so it's like impact for the kingdom. It's also impact in the world, like go out and like get your name out there and change the world. But like yours is, you use that I've been wrestling with that word, and the way you used it is kind of where I'm settling. It's like, no. It's that impacting right where you are, like that local almost feel, like when these women, these moms, these wives, these single moms, whatever, when they get that money, they actually gain power in their community. They gain respect and they gain influence like over what's happening in their schools, in their local area, in their sports teams, and their whatever, because that is true. That's like when you have the money, you do have some sway on things. So what makes you feel, what made you like go so local with that? You said that really elegantly, by the way. I don't hear many people say that, like, man, if I can just give that woman some money through sales, which sales fixes everything, by the way, guys. Like if you can just give her money, she will have influence in her family and on her local community. Like what made you go that route with that,
Well, I'll say that I saw it over and over again as I was starting my business and I was starting to work with these women. I was seeing the kind of things that they were doing, the confidence that they were having, and how it was really impacting their families. To see a woman be able to go like, we're going to invest in a new home because we need a bigger house for our family, or, I'm going to be able to now be on the board of such and such because they have this confidence around them, they're making money. And those types of things, when you're directly impacting your community. And I know this, and I will say too, is I just spent the weekend with somebody who I'm incredibly inspired by, who is an amazing community leader. And I always think like at some point, I won't be surprised if her community like names a park, a school, a huge building after her, because she's making a massive impact. And she's just been, and I watch her in what she's doing in her community. And it, like, she actually raised the money for a teen center for the Boys and Girls Club, like $4 million. And she's actually in the Sales Maven Society. She's somebody I've known for a really long time. And she uses these techniques to go out and talk to donors. And these donors are giving big money that is making,
and she probably has the respect from her career to be able to get in front of those people to even make that kind of pitch.
Yes.
Yeah, that fuels everything. The best. This is a common thread in a lot of successful women in our community. It's a pride thing. Like they love it when they can retire their husbands. And yes. I think that's such an awesome thing, man, because like, historically everybody's like, well, my little lady is going to stay at the house, whatever. And like, it's such a like double bird to society, right? Like, it's like, well, what's your goal? To retire my husband. And man, I love it when that happens in the community, because it's like, you can feel the pride and the confidence and the energy. And it's like, kind of like, if I can, and that's so local, that's your spouse. And man, when those ladies do that, they're like, they just, you feel the world changer come out of them when they handle something like that. And they do get like involved in their community and change things. Even Jocelyn, like we're as husband and wife team as it can be. I mean, for better or for worse, right? Like we sometimes most of the time we bring out the best in each other. Occasionally the worst, right? And so that's just par for the course. But like I am very loud, and I am the front facing part of the brand. And it is easy for me to overshadow the rest of the team sometimes because I am the person talking on the microphone. And even with Jocelyn, who knows beyond a shadow of a doubt, like none of this is, I mean, she's way smarter than me. Like she does nothing happens without Jocelyn turning the gears. But man, when she goes, she still sells coaching packages because it just makes her feel good to go sell, generate revenue. And like, man, there is something about making money that just gives you some kind of power, and it makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. And there is some validation in it too of like, oh, here's somebody who believes I can make a difference for them and they're willing to put some money towards it. Like that also matters. And I think for women, and probably for men too, but definitely for me, when somebody pays me money, I feel like I am going to deliver. I feel called to deliver. I feel like I'm going to make sure that I give them the best possible experience that I'm capable of. And they do get a great experience. And then they go on and make this, again, impact in their own community. And when they get better at selling, this is the other thing, is that they're also making a bigger impact in their clients' lives because they're making it easier for somebody to say yes to them. And then those people are now impacted because they get the benefit of whatever it is that person sold. Right. So it just feels like it's definitely bigger than me and bigger than I think everything. It just makes such a difference for the lives of the people that I get to work with.
You're amazing, Nikki Rausch, man. If let's all right, we're gonna wrap this up. I could talk to you for hours. I want to go. I want to go down this rabbit hole and all the sales maven stuff. Maybe I should join sales maven. I don't know, but like, if anybody would like to work with you and you make a difference in their life. And they want you to serve them like you serve everybody else. Tell everybody how they can connect with you online and where they should start going down the Nikki Rausch sales maven rabbit hole.
Thank you. Well, the easiest way is I'm going to wrap this in a gift for your audience. So if you would like to be connected to me, go to yoursalesmaven.com/Sams, and that will get you my ebook on closing the sale. And it's going to talk through those last 3 steps that we talked about. So yoursalesmaven.com/Sams. That'll be your ebook, and then we'll be connected.
All right, guys, that is the end of my interview with Nikki Rausch. Man, she is an amazing, amazing lady. If you sell anything, you need to go check her out over at yoursalesmaven.com/Sams. That's SAMS. She's got a free gift waiting for you over there. Also, if you are an online business owner and you would like to make more money, the best way to do that on the internet is with a membership website. And also, don't forget that the Shane Sam Show is brought to you by FlippedLifestyle.com. FlippedLifestyle.com is the place to start, build, and grow a membership site online. All you need is 100 people to pay you $50 a month to make $60,000 a year, or 200 people to make $120,000 a year. And that is all possible when you have a membership business on the internet. Over at FlippedLifestyle.com, we're going to show you how to find and use your God-given talents and all of your life experiences, how to take those talents and experiences to turn them into an amazing online business and start, build, and grow a membership site that can change your family's future. Our mission is to help you replace your income, become and stay self-employed, and build the life you want to live. So make sure you check that out. Head over to FlippedLifestyle.com today. We have a 30-day free trial for all new members of our community. It's a perfect business model to start from scratch or to add to an existing business. All right, y'all, that's all the time I have for this week's podcast. Man, if I'm bringing some value to you each week with my guests, do me a favor. Head over to Apple Podcast and leave us a 5-star review. Reviews really help us trigger that algorithm to show this podcast to more people. I personally read every single one of those reviews, and I would love to hear what you think about the show. Same thing goes for any podcast player you use, whether it's Overcast, Stitcher, or Spotify. Make sure you follow us, like, and subscribe. And hey, why not share this episode with a friend? I'll be back with you again next week with another amazing guest here on The Shane Sam Show. Until I see you then, be consistent, be prolific, be relentless. Pick up your stone, cast it out upon the waters, and cause many ripples. I'll see you then.